So now here we are with the main towers in place and the support structure already modeled. The only thing left remaining to do, besides a couple of details around the bottom of the building, is to do the entire stadium at the top. Now, we can start by doing the organic shell, which is sitting underneath here, but what we will do first, just to do it procedurally, step 1, 2, and 3, is to do the seating and the main playing field first. This will allow us then to create the shell that is almost an envelope to that seating, and making sure that the envelope is the right size to accommodate that shape, which is really the primary object that we are going to focus on. Before hiding all these objects, I'm just going to change the colors of these. I'm going to go make it a little bit more dull in background so that we can focus on the more brightly colored objects that we're going to be working with. So I generally like to work with very faded soft colors. It's much more pleasing on the eye. And usually my CAD files are all dark blue, so let's change that as well. Right, so now I'm going to be creating the stadium seating. So the layer for that will be stadium seating. And layer properties here, you can set up your color, you can make it anything you like. Let's say we're going to use this orange here. Not that it's the color it's going to create the object in, but it can help. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hide the parts that we don't need. So we don't really need anything that we've created so far. We don't need the support. From the CAD layers, this becomes irrelevant since it's below the stadium that we're going to make. And let's just unhide the stadium, which is this one here. We're still going to keep this on since that is one of the most important elevations, which will show us the shell from that side. So here we make sure stadium seating is on, and we can now isolate these two CAD files. So let's start in the plan view, and remember here that we only need to really model half of it, or at least 1/4, and then we can mirror it 4 times. So let's do that. We're going to start by creating a plane in the middle, and this plane we can divide in 2 so that we essentially have these 4 corners. We can then create an editable poly out of it. And most of this I'm just going to do by eye. I'm going to go quite quickly, and I'm just going to use basic poly modeling tools. For instance, that you just hold down Shift and scale up. Then I'm going to just move all of this into place purely by eye, since there isn't any exact number to conform to. The only bit that we will calculate is the actual seating, which has to be of an exact height and width so that the stairs are all in the same and the correct height. So here we can select those in the corner, and we can then go Control-I and hit Delete, so that we're only left with this corner here. And this is the part that we're going to now work with. So looking back at our elevation, we can just see where we are. And if I zoom out here, you'll have a look that we're still drawing right there at the bottom. So we need to move that up into place, and we can just drop that to that height. Again, roughly in the right place. Then we can select these edges in the corner, and then just using the Shift and drag, we can drag those edges into place. And I'm just holding down Shift each time and dragging, dragging, and dragging. So what we've done now in plan is that we've dragged out this part. And I'm not going to worry about this diagonal yet. We're going to worry about that much further down the line. And now in perspective, we have created essentially the shell here. Now we need to also create this edge on this side. So to do that, we can click on all these edges here. In plan view, I'm just going to stretch this slightly back and this slightly out. Then in perspective, I'm going to delete this. We're going to extrude this up. Then with my snap toggle, I'm just going to snap that into place and delete these other faces that we don't need. And I'm going to keep that outside there. Selecting my edge number 2. Just going to make a copy there. We're actually going to be deleting most of this later as we cut off this diagonal edge. If I look in my plan view, most of that will get shaved off at a later stage. So right now we're sitting with the main playing field, this little edge here, which is going to be sort of like a service zone and a walkway. And again, remember that we can do this in several different ways. You could have also made the original square and then extruded the whole square upwards and created an edge, but we were just doing this in one of the many ways. I'm now going to select this edge here and going to my front view again, and we're going to hit spacebar to lock that selection down, and I'm going to use these edges here just to get the correct height. Now I don't want to snap onto this because actually it's not exactly in the right place. It's slightly out, but it's not really too much of an issue, because the most important part is that the relative height and width is exactly according to the AutoCAD. So I can now go in and just edit that slightly. I can just zoom in and I can get the amount of detail that I need. You can also snap on if you like. Just go down in the Z-axis until I feel happy that that is in the right place. And then just manually going to tweak that. So there we have it. That's our first step. Now to do the other steps, you can either carry on with that same process by using the AutoCAD. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do a slightly quicker version where I'm going to detach this. And then I'm going to holding down the Shift key or pressing down the holding down the spacebar and then the Shift key, I'm going to make a copy. And then I don't know how many steps there are, maybe 50, not 500. 50 steps, press OK, see what happens. Look in your front view. And voila. We've actually overshot it because there's a little bit of a gap here, which is kind of a walkway, which we have to take into account. So we're going to take these steps here and we're going to move them. And I think that it is quite a round number, so it's roughly 1.5. So I'm going to go back and then just do this numerically, 1.5 meters. Sorry, that's actually the wrong way, minus 1.5 meters this time. It's not exactly correct, so we can just tweak it manually. There we go. And we can see we've got one step too many here. And that should be around it. So let's go back into our perspective view. Let's focus on this only. Now we know that we need to attach all of these together, so let's just do this the quick way. Let's select it, isolate it, select your main object, right click, attach list, and then just select geometry, and then just do Control A and attach. So everything now that you've isolated will be attached all together. Now what you want to do is you want to go into your line here and you want to just stretch that across to join. Select your vertice there, select Control A to select all of them, and we're just going to weld them together since each of them have been individual objects when we detach them. So we're going to weld that, press OK, and now we pretty much have our main seating object. So if I go back into my view and I turn on some of our tower facade, stadium support, etc., you can see that that part is starting to take shape. And we can now, as a last function, go into use the working point, and we can mirror that object, making an instance this time. And we can do that again, making an instance on the other side too. So now when we work on each quarter, we will have that repeated in each of the 4 ways. So this is really the base geometry for our seating that we're now going to edit in the next video, just to add some detailing. We're going to cut it, we're going to add the hole, and just do some of the small little refinements to it in the next video. So in this video, all we've really done is we've made this geometry for the seating, for the stadium and the seating, and you will notice that this line on the inside is the one that we're going to texture as the grass. So this little edge here is the sort of buffer zone for the stadium, and this here is the walking area for the public that are viewing. And that is it for this video. Next one, let's refine this stadium a little bit more.